All righty. Well, let's bear the brunt of the heavy lifting here. Let's do the grunt work. And before we go any further, let's try to lend some insight on before all of what we've just talked about happened yesterday. For the past week, we've been inundated with the people asking us and sharing on social media the video that they've released from the WWE vault of an early match between Jerry Lawler and Randy Savage. And I guess that's been about a week ago now, right?
About a week, WWE Vault has been releasing a bunch of interesting things. We talked about how they put up unedited Great American Bashes from various years, lots of rare footage, house show matches or dark matches that hadn't gotten out. This one was a real surprise because it popped up kind of out of nowhere,
Yeah.
apparently from the PAFO/ICW collection, whatever that entails, whenever WWE purchased it. But it was a Savage Lawler match that no one had seen before, and most people, if not everyone except whoever worked there, couldn't even really truly identify the building. They said it was one building, but no one was sure.
Well, and I've got some insight short of calling Randy Hales, but I actually didn't, think it was important enough to bother him to say, "Hey, were you there on March 23rd, 1985 or whatever?" But here's here's the light that I can shed on it and explain how this confusion started. This was not an ICW event per se that this match was promoted on and shot at, because ICW as a thing had ceased to exist probably a year beforehand. It was a Memphis show promoted off Memphis, the Memphis crew. I'm not saying that Angelo Poffo might not have been the local promoter, but here's the deal. In late 1983, as we've talked about here on the program before, Lanny Poffo had already left and he was working preliminaries for Bill Watts in Mid-South Wrestling because he was there. We worked with him first couple weeks we were there in December of 83. Mid-South had promoted that Randy Savage was going to be coming in also. Angelo was closing down his promotion. They couldn't make it anymore, and he was trying to find jobs for his sons, right? Well, but between the time that they taped the announcement of Randy Savage coming to Mid-South and the time that it would have actually happened, as we've talked about, Bill Dundee, Watts decided to bring Dundee down as his booker in Louisiana. Dundee wasn't obviously going to bring Savage in. I don't think there was a lot of heat with Lanny, but, Lanny was only a preliminary guy anyway in that environment. So Angelo made a deal with Jerry Jarrett for them all to come to Memphis. Since Dundee was out of the way, they could have because of the heat between Dundee and Savage that everybody knows about, that they could have the Lawler Savage matches they'd been promoting for 5 years and do some business. And Lanny meant more in that angle as the brother, and Angelo was their manager, than he did just, working underneath in Louisiana. What happened was, because ICW was on television still in a couple of different places, Jarrett agreed to send the out of town tape of the 60-minute version of the Memphis show that Louisville and Evansville and Lexington everywhere got, to fulfill Angelo's TV commitments. That's how so many of those 1984 Memphis clips still exist today, because Angelo kept anything that would be worth anything. And a lot of that stuff was later into the Ron Martinez collection, PM Film and Tape, and Kit Parker licensed some of it for the Wrestling Gold series. But point being, one of the TVs that ICW and Poffo had was Harrisburg, Illinois, which I'm not sure if there's a station in the Cape Girardeau, Missouri market, or if it's served by Harrisburg, but nevertheless, Memphis didn't run Cape Girardeau, Missouri. That had been an ICW town like Paducah, Kentucky, Cape Girardeau. and the 64 corridor that we've talked about. Angelo Poffo had tried it with Phil Golden's All-Star Wrestling in 73. Same towns. Came back to them. It was close to Southern Illinois where they were from. So Angelo was promoting there, and a point I'm making is that even though Memphis didn't regularly go to Cape Girardeau, they did go to the Boot Heel of Missouri because the Memphis TV reached there. So if they got the TV market in Harrisburg, it was just a little bit farther for the Memphis crew to go up. And the show was in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and Randy Hales was the ring announcer because at the time, Randy was not only doing the TVs and, be a general manager kind of role, but he would have been the ring announcer for anything in Jonesboro, Arkansas, or anything in Missouri, et cetera, because that was the Memphis end. So somebody had it right in that they found an ad for a show in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in March of 1985, and that fits it. The date that they had at the WWE vault on the tape, even though they couldn't figure out why it was there. And probably, since there's no commentary on it, Angelo might have even been running the camera. He might have, who knows what the fuck. They taped it. Maybe they showed a few highlights on Memphis TV, but it was just a spot show match. And that ended up with the tapes that Angelo Poffo ended up, selling or disposing of to Ron Martinez.
You want to hear the rest of the card?
Sure.
And by the way, it was a Sunday. Where did the Memphis territory typically run on a Sunday?
Except for Jackson, Tennessee once a month when I was there, nowhere. So see, it was a day off, and Angelo probably said, hey, we can draw a house here, have Randy work with Lawler.
So Sunday, March 24th, 1985, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Speedy Talltree defeated Larry Williams. And Speedy Talltree is one of the sons of Tom Renesto.
Tom Renesto, yeah.
Billy Travis defeated Jack Attack. Whoever or whatever that is. Patriots defeated Cruisers.
Good Lord.
Speedy Talltree, working double, beat Angelo Poffo.
There you go.
Plowboy Frazier, in a handicap match, defeated Patriots. Lanny Poffo defeated Billy Travis. It's almost formatted like a mini taping. I mean, a lot of these guys are working twice. Battens defeated J.R. Hogg in a handicap match. And the main event, Jerry Lawler defeated Randy Savage.
Maybe that Angelo was trying to keep the TV going and wanted to tape something or whatever. And it sounds, as you said, like it was a primitive TV taping, but as we saw, it was one camera in a stands. And that wasn't even a full Memphis crew. That was Lawler saying to fucking Frazier and Billy Travis, and Speedy Talltree was in the territory at the time, and maybe a couple of other guys, hey, let's go up here and work our off Sunday. Angelo's going to run fucking Cape Girardeau. And Randy, you can keep an eye on the box office, make sure we get a fucking legitimate count type of thing.
This is a week before WrestleMania 1. And this is, let's see, March, April, May, 3.5 months or so before Randy Savage would go to the WWF.
But there you have it. Mystery solved. This it is and somebody said, and who the fuck is Tux Newman? Huh. Tux Newman was Randy Savage's manager. That was Scott Walton, the
Jeff Walton.
Jeff Walton.
Scott's his son.
No, you know what? No, you know who Scott Walton is? He's an old-time local CBS fucking affiliate WHAS television personality here. But Jeff Walton, who was the longtime publicity agent for the Los Angeles office, had, because he wanted to dip his toe in the managing world, and he got booked in Memphis to come out and be a manager, Tux Newman, for, I would say, a brief period of time.
They needed a manager. This is right when Jimmy Hart left to go to the WWF right before WrestleMania 1, and they needed someone, and Jeff had been around the wrestling business for such a long time. He had done so much for the Los Angeles office. He had run the Freddie Blassie fan club as a fan. And then got involved with the magazine end. And Vince McMahon wanted Jeff to run what was Victory Magazine and became WWF Magazine. Jeff was one of the first people Vince picked. I think Vince brought him to Connecticut. He put Vince in touch with Theo Ehret. That's why there's a brief period of time where there are Theo Ehret WWF photos, like in their magazines. And then it didn't work out, and he ended up doing some stuff with Norm Keitzer. And then he wanted to be a manager. It was something he always wanted to do. Bleached his hair. Became Tux Newman in Memphis. And you have to say, he was actually pretty good.
He was good. The blonde hair was a little much to take, knowing what he normally looked like in real life. But he wasn't bad in
Yeah.
yeah. And probably a little Freddie Blassie influence there.
He managed, there's also footage of him managing like for California Championship Wrestling in the 80s, but it's unfortunate the business changed. Otherwise, maybe he would have done more as a manager because he was pretty good.
But that's the explanation of that.